Hello, Facebook family, Tribe of Giants, Wake Up with Giants TV. This is Beyond the Purple Door with the Wellness Witch, Nicole Castillo. If you haven't yet, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wake Up with Giants TV. You can also find us on Wake Up with Giants TV Facebook page. And you can find us in a Tribe of Giants. If you're not part of a Tribe of Giants, come join us. We are impacting 100 million lives, and that means we need you. We need lots of giants who are committed to globally impacting the world with teaching people about their giant potential. So that's a lot of voices that we're needing. And Serita, today, I have you guys an amazing guest. She was on Wake Up with Giants TV, I believe 2 weeks ago. So if you have not yet seen her episode, please go over and watch that after this episode, just so you can learn more about Serita and her story. She is a master life coach for those living with chronic pain. Yes, people, master. I brought the master here. She is also an author. You guys can find her on Instagram at I Am Chronically Resilient, which I will put in for the banner for you guys to go find her on Instagram. She also has been on Wake Up, or it is Sway in the Morning on Shade 45. Gosh, Sway is just like, he does that to me, right?
Yes. Amazing human being, let me tell you. So.
Amazing. And so she's been on Sway in the Morning a few times, and she is just a beautiful human who has endured so much with her own journey. And now she is the wounded healer, the chronic pain master coach, with supporting you guys with stepping into your giant potential, even when you're navigating chronic pain. So today we are going to be talking about how to navigate the first steps in your chronic pain journey. And we start off usually our shows here talking about what it is that we're celebrating. And today is a big day for both me and Serita. So Serita, what are you celebrating today?
Well, I'm actually celebrating a few things today. I'm celebrating, it would have been my mom's 84th birthday today. So definitely celebrating her, as always. She's definitely always here with me, in spirit and everything as well. Also, you mentioned something that I'm going to also say I'm celebrating too, that I actually decided 2 years ago this month that I wanted to actually become a full-time coach. I didn't actually launch my business until March. I believe it was March 21st that year was the vernal equinox, because I believe for me, that's my new year is the vernal equinox. So I decided to go ahead and launch my business. So I had the 2 months of being frantic, being like, what am I doing? What's going on? And then being like, nope, you're going to go ahead and you're going to do this. And so those would be the couple of things, right there that I would say that I'm celebrating for today. And of course, being here with you. I mean, duh.
Thank you. Yeah, so today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So that's something that I'm celebrating. And also it is 2 years ago today is when Nicole took the leap into coaching full time, and I left behind my corporate job. So it was 2 years ago this day, January 17th. And I would have never guessed I would be sitting here on Beyond the Purple Door with the amazing master of chronic pain healing, Serita. So I'm so honored to have you on our show. I'm so honored to be with you in this conversation. I believe that we are kindred spirits in that I have neurological Lyme disease. And so when I was listening to your story, just so much of what you said impacted me, because I feel like we've kind of navigated some of the same struggles. So if you could share with our viewers who are not familiar with you about who you are and why chronic pain.
No, definitely. Well, as you said before, my name is Serita Valmond, and I'm a chronic pain coach. And I empower those that are living with chronic pain, and I help them get back control of their body and their lives using natural lifestyle alternatives, aka no medications. I also help them, walk back into themselves as far as for using their own intuition, because unfortunately, a lot of times when you're going through so much, you start to get, detracted from yourself. And so my thing is, I want you to be able to go ahead and recognize what's going to work for you, because it's not a one size fits all solution. and everyone's journey is different. Everything that will work for you will be different. But I want you to be able to go ahead and really be able to learn, listen to your body and listen to what it's trying to tell you, and then be able to go ahead and just, walk with you on that journey. So that is the biggest piece, of what I do. And for me, I'm not going to go into my full story because, it can get a little lengthy. But for myself, unfortunately / fortunately, I was in a bad car accident about 5 years ago where I was rear-ended by a drunk driver. I was in an area where the speed limit was 25. She was going at least 60. So from there, you can imagine the impact not only on my vehicle, but also on my body, which led me to be a science experiment for close to a year, where I was going to countless specialists, doing everything that has been advised, under the sun, and nothing was working for me. And it got to a point where about roughly 9 months in, I finally did get an opportunity to see a orthopedic surgeon, which he said to me, hey, let me run some more tests. I laughed because I said, that's all you guys have been doing anyways, just go for it. If you find something, fine. If you don't, nothing new, we'll be okay. Well, he came back from looking at the results of the MRI and CT and discovered that I had bone chip spurs going into my nerve in my right shoulder. Oh, no. And that's where he was saying the pain was coming from. And so to put in perspective, the pain that I was feeling is basically going from my right shoulder down my arm into my right hand, which I'm right-handed. And it started going to my upper neck and back. And then it started to spread into my joints as well, too. So basically throughout my body. And I was basically around like an 8 or 9 on the pain scale on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And by the time I saw him, I was on roughly about 7 to 8 medications on a daily basis when I, got that opportunity to see him. So he said, the only thing that we really can do at this point is to do surgery. And I did not want to have surgery. But however, I called the person that I knew that could give me the straight up facts of what I need to do, which was my mom. Mm-hmm. And my mom was a retired orthopedic nurse. Nursing for 43 years. So I'm like, okay, if someone's going to tell me the truth, it's going to be her, because she also is not a fan of surgery as well either. So she's like, yeah, you have to go ahead and do it, but don't worry about it. I'll come up and take care of you, as she lived in Florida. I live in Wisconsin. And so I said, fine, we'll go ahead and do that. However, I didn't know that she also was battling with pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And so everything started to kind of like turn to a head. And I was basically visiting her on a monthly basis, going to doctor's appointments and things, and also coming back up here and doing the same thing. Mind you, still being on an 8 or 9 on the pain scale, also being a mom of 3 beautiful kids as well, and trying to, navigate all those things. And about roughly 3 weeks prior to my surgery, my mom actually took a turn for the worse. And I ended up being with her in the hospital really the last 3 days prior to her transition. And I was with her, at the time that she transitioned and everything as well, too, which was a very difficult situation. But, I basically walked her through it. And I said to her that, you have done so much. You've been an amazing person. You're 79. And I'm also a prankster as well, too. So I said to her, I'm like, you trying to get out of your 80th birthday party, this is not the way that you do it. Like, this is not how we're going to have this go down or anything. And even like the week prior was my parents' 54th wedding anniversary as well, too, which unfortunately they didn't get the opportunity to celebrate, with her actually going into the hospital the day after their anniversary. And so I said to her, I said, okay, I know you don't like to be the center of attention and everything like that, but let's go ahead and, it's, after I had the opportunity for her to, say goodbye to my kids and everything as well, I said, it's okay. If you want to go ahead and, go, then it's fine. So I went ahead and said to her that, it's okay. You can go ahead and go, and I got this, on my end. You go ahead and, take care of things on your end, as well. And I watched her take her last breath, and I started to scream. And I couldn't stop screaming. But at the same time, knowing the things that I know now, that was really me being able to release that energy. Because if I wouldn't have screamed, it would have even, festered more in my body as well. And then my dad also started to, scream as well. And so then we finally were able to, calm ourselves down. And I basically just, kind of watched them start to get, start to prepare her, to basically, leave the hospital. But they said to me, they're like, we're not going to have you watch, the end results of things. But they're like, if you want in for jewelry or anything, which I did, I actually have her bracelet that I keep on me on my left arm. So that way I always have her right with me for my receiving, and everything as well. And so from there, planned the funeral, had to come back up to Wisconsin to grab my kids, bring them down there. And I basically did it all because my dad shut down. He went into shock. And so he really was just able to basically sign the check, and that was it. And I can say that was really honestly a blur to me now when I kind of sit back and look at it. Like I, got all the pictures together for them to do the collages and all those things like that. And it's like, I don't even remember any of that stuff. I just remember that it happened. And I think everything really didn't hit me until the Monday after I got back, because we had our daily tradition was at 10 a.m. every day, I would talk to her. So as soon as 10 a.m. hit, I sat on the couch and I picked up my phone and I'm like, I can't call. I'm like, because there's no one to call. And that's when I really finally had that breakdown moment, for myself. Because it's like, you have those tendencies of, and I hate it now, but just like being the strong woman, so to speak, just like, the hold tight and everything, where it's like, well, no, you are supposed to be able to still break. It's okay to go ahead and break down, because the breakdown is going to allow for you to build back up again and build from it. And that's really, parts of it. And one thing that, well, there's a bunch of things, of course, I learned from my mom, but one part that actually kind of came into effect with what I'm, doing now is that when she was, going back and forth to doctors. She was a type 2 diabetic, which then became a type 1 and 2. And so she had to do a lot of changes when it came to like her diet and things of that nature. And I actually helped her do those. And she, jokingly said to me, she's like, what, if you could find a job doing something like this, you'd be really good at this. Because she's like, I don't feel bad about anything that I'm doing. She's like, I'm not like, being deprived of anything. And she's like, you just basically showed me alternatives to what I was already doing. And she's like, and it tastes the same, like all these things like that. So I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and I just like start laughing. I said, Mom, I'm like, I've never heard of a job like this before, but I'm like, whatever, I'm like, if I can do it, fine, we'll figure it out. And one thing I did mention, that I forgot to mention prior, when she was transitioned, I did promise to her that, I would go ahead and finish my education. Now, of course, I didn't say what I was going to do, but I did promise her that I was going to go ahead and finish, because I had, at the time, I was almost done with my my bachelor's degree. But I just was at a point where I'm like, I wasn't in that field anymore, because I was, came from corporate America, HR and things of that nature. I didn't want to, stay in that. But instead, from going through all this, it's basically like a 180, as far as everything that I went through. But going forward from there and, coming back, having the surgery, losing the motor functions of my right hand, from the surgery and everything as well. And I love Natalie just put the note up from my mom. One thing is that when she was transitioning to, we always said, hey, butterflies is going to be the symbol. And that was really, and that still is our symbol that, as far as for us, that I always, mention. I'm even working on rebranding and having that actually included in my branding, just because I said, I want to go ahead and have something from her, in there, because I'm like, she definitely made me for who I am, today. And so that just reminded me, as soon as I saw the butterflies, I'm like, yes.
I think Natalie was watching your episode on Wake Up with Giants TV and remembered the butterflies. Yeah. So Natalie, thank you for being part of our community and for throwing that in there. It's definitely a butterfly day today.
It absolutely is. I almost feel like I might even try to see if I can run and get a tattoo today. I don't know. That's my randomness. Like, that's how I am. That's how I like operate. I'll be like, I'll just go get a tattoo. Like, it's nothing big. No big deal.
I love it. That's so beautiful. So, some of the things that I heard in your sharing is having a health advocate or a wellness advocate. I remember for me, when I was going through my Lyme, I didn't really have a support system. So when I would go into doctor's visits, my husband, we got married actually. It was our 13-year wedding anniversary yesterday.
Oh.
And I was, I'm going to get emotional. But for me with healing, I would go into my appointments and Lyme disease causes brain fog. It causes disorientation. So sometimes I couldn't remember. I would just be in a fog. And so he would he's the boyfriend and he's coming with me to appointments. But I don't think he knew how to ask the questions. He doesn't have a medical background, right? So if you are to enroll someone to be your health advocate, I know for you, you had your mom who was a nurse for 43 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone doesn't have that kind of a background, how would they know what questions to ask as a health advocate? Or if you are the person who's chronically ill, enrolling an advocate and then the questions that they can ask for you. I know for me, a lot of it was hard to hear because I'm kind of in shock when they're telling me they thought I had MS for a minute. And so I just went to a space of I blanked out and I wasn't asking the necessary questions, right? But if someone's there with you, then they can think to ask those questions.
No, absolutely. And that's a very good thing to mention. That's actually one of the pieces as well, too. It's just even, doing some research and just finding out, what questions to ask. It's okay to go ahead and do a Google search. I mean, definitely, looking for coaches and things like that actually have, had that experience as well, too, is also huge. And even also just, documenting the things that you're noticing happening on a day-to-day basis as well, too, is really huge. And even just as a matter of, what you're eating, how much, fluids you're intaking as well, too, what kind of vitamins you're taking. Also, even discussing, what kind of medications you might already be on or some things that might have been, discussed with you prior. And even what else you've done as far as for your own research. I know some, depending upon the specialist, some of them like to know that you've done some research. Other ones are a little egotistical, which will kind of say that, where they're like, well, you don't have a medical degree. How do you know? But it's in reality, it's well, I'm paying attention to my body and I'm giving you the symptoms that I'm recognizing. And based off the symptoms, this is what I saw. So I want to make sure I bring this up to you out of my own concern. And sometimes, you might run into a specialist that is not the nicest. And that is also something that is okay for you to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to be able to work with each other. That's okay. You can fire, physicians as well. I mean, for myself personally, I had to fire, 3 physicians, while I was going through my own journey, just based off of some of the things that they were saying to me. So, I mean, it's definitely something that you have, that right, because this is your body. You're the person that knows your body the best. And you can say, hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this person. And it's okay to say that and find someone that you do feel comfortable with. It. It's okay to have a second, third, fourth opinion. And I know sometimes it's hard because you're already going to so many appointments, but it's still something that, you'd rather know that you have a good team. Because that's really what it boils down to is that, not only having, being an advocate for yourself, but then also too, having a team that you can work with, a different team of specialists. I mean, even for myself, I still have a team. It's that I don't necessarily go to an actual physician right now, but I do have, a massage therapist that I go to on a regular basis to make sure that my body's okay. I work with a personal trainer that actually has experience working with people with chronic conditions as well too. So it's I'm finding people that can help me on the alternative side of things. And then also too, still, looking into and doing research, for myself as far as, what works the best when it comes to nutrition, for example, as well. So I'll stop because then I'll start going into the next part.
And so for me, going in and I had a UTI. So I have a kidney infection, UTI, and a Lyme. So I go in for a UTI and they gave me antibiotics. And from the antibiotics, I literally could not move my leg. It was so stiff and I was in so much pain. And paying attention to my body, I said, well, the antibiotics did help. I noticed a difference in my body. I just wanted to be able to walk to my husband when we got married. And so I was like, I think I found out like 3 weeks before my wedding, I was going to physical therapy. They thought I had MS. But that one thing, when you talk about being your own body scientist and just paying attention to what you're putting into your body and how it's affecting your body, because of that, it was able to click something with the doctors of like, okay, maybe this is bacterial. And you, when you were talking on Wake Up with Giants TV, which was so empowering to me, is that you fired your doctor.
Yeah,
You have fired doctors. Yeah. And so for me, I didn't fire a doctor, but I had a resident that came in and she was from Thailand. And I literally said, like, these doctors that have practiced Western medicine are looking at my leg. They want to diagnose me with MS for my leg. It's not just my leg. I have all this other stuff going on. I need you to look at me holistically.
Yes.
So I did not like fire my other doctors, but I was able to verbalize to this amazing doctor from Thailand. I said, test me for everything. And that was another thing that really impacted me about your story, is that you will go research what tests they have available for you with your insurance, and then you will tell your doctor. And I literally had to tell my doctor, test me for everything. They took 26 vials of blood before they found the Lyme disease. But it's because she was like, listen to me and what I had going on. So I would love to hear a little bit about the 3 doctors that you fired and what criteria you can support our viewers with when you go into a doctor's appointment. What should they be looking for?
No, absolutely. So with my particular situation, the first one that I fired, basically, he looked at me and told me that I don't look like I'm in pain. And that's when I was probably like, maybe that day I was at a 9. So I was like pretty much like there when it came to my pain. And I said to him, I'm like, it took me 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours to get ready to come in here to talk to you for 10 to 15 minutes for you to look at me and tell me that I don't look like I'm in pain. And I said, what does a person in pain look like? I really want to know. And he just like kind of like sat back, like he was surprised that I actually said something back to him. Because I'm like, you should. And I said, I'm like, you should not feel comfortable saying that to someone that is in. I said, I'm in a whirl of pain right now, where I was like not even sure if I was going to be able to make it to this appointment, because I was, driving myself and everything as well. So imagine being like completely your whole entire body inflamed, and you're driving yourself to a doctor's appointment by yourself. That's not the way that you want to, handle things. And so I told him, I said, I'm not going to be coming back to see you again. I said, it's just, point blank period. We are not going to be able to work together, because if you're making a basis just off of looking at me, that's not going to work. So that was the first one. The second one, and also to all note that these were all men, and I have nothing against male doctors, because I do have one. My OBGYN is a man and he's amazing. But, just having me with these particular situations, they were all 3 men. But then the middle one that I went to said to me, I looked at your file here and I noticed that you had your second child natural childbirth. I'm not sure how, he basically said to me, he's like, I don't understand how you can be in so much pain right now. And I looked at him, I'm like, okay, so we are comparing apples to oranges right now, because number one, when you're going through childbirth, that's something that is going to stop. It's not something that pain is not going to continuously go. Not to mention, I said to him too, I said, you have never, you're a man. I'm like, you've never had a menstrual cramp. You've never had anything else, let alone to be able to kind of compare it to. I said, when it comes to this pain is not stopping. I'm like, you guys are giving me countless medications to take, but nothing is really, stopping this pain. It might, decrease it a little bit, but it's not ending. And so I'm like, you know what? No, me and you are not going to be able to work with each other, because it's like now you're trying to use my medical history basically against me, and just being like, hey, you're like, I don't know my body. And so that's the thing, once again, I'm like, no, I do. And I know something's not right. That's the reason why I'm, kind of doing this, going to see all of you guys, because something is not right in my body. And then the last one said to me, it's all in your head. There's no way that you could be walking around at an 8 or 9 on the pain scale, because normally people are hospitalized at that point. So that's not, you have to go see, you need to see a therapist, because it's not humanly possible that you could be in that much pain. So basically, dismissing the pain that I'm having in my body, which is like, you can't dismiss what a person is saying to you or telling you that it's not factual and it's not real, because it started to make me think, because for a moment, then you're like, is it in my head? Am I just, making this up? And it's like, no, I'm not making this up, because it's like, I have a bag full of medications here that I'm like, that I'm taking, that
Yeah.
it's like, no, this is not the case. And even, when I got to the high end of everything of my experience, because I did end up eventually being put into pain management protocol. And then at that point, I was on 15 medications, on a daily basis as well, too, on top of, everything else that I was going through, seeing chiropractors, massage therapists, physical therapy and all those things like that, getting trigger point injections, basically like you name it, I did it all, and still was, experiencing all of the pain. And so, noticing and recognizing that it's like, hey, it's okay to go ahead and, take a step back and say, hey, you know what? These particular specialists are not working for me. I need to find someone that can be on my team that's going to, number one, believe me, and also allow for me to feel safe. Because the one thing is that in order for you to actually heal, you do have to be in a situation where you feel safe. And I felt like, at that point, I didn't feel safe. And I also felt like my body was betraying me, because you kind of go through those different, mental things as well, where you're like, okay, what is really going on? And so it makes you definitely question, yourself, your sanity, to be honest. And so even with myself and part of my journey, when I was in pain management protocol, I did end up starting to see a psychologist. And I, said to her well, take a step back. Before I went into the appointment, I was in my car crying. That was basically my daily ritual. Was every day I was crying because I didn't know what to do, what was going to happen next. But the reason why I was even crying the most at going to go see her is that I felt like she was going to just, put me into the psych ward, that my kids were going to get taken away from me because I had just been divorced, a year prior. So I'm like co-parenting. And, I'm like, this is not how I want things to be. And so when I went in to talk to her, I said to her, I was like, I hope you got your waiters. And she's like, what are my waiters? What are you talking about? And I was like, well, we got a whole lot of shit to get through. So if you can get through it, we'll be good. And she started laughing because she was like, you are funny. And I said, well, to be honest, I'm like, I have to laugh to stop from crying. And then I told her, I said, I actually was just crying before I came in here. I said, I fixed my makeup and everything before I walked in. So that way I didn't look like that. And she, looked at me and she said, well, can I touch your hand? And I'm like, okay, I'm just like, fine. And she touched my hand and she said, it's okay. She's like, you're safe here. You can say whatever it is that you need to say. And she's like, I'm not judging you. You're not going to go into, a nut house or anything like that. You're fine. And I just started bawling out of control because that's the first time I've heard someone actually say that to me, that, that you are safe. And that's actually one of the things that a lot of times I say to my clients when I'm talking to them. I tell them, it's a judgment-free confidential zone, and also too, you're safe. And for them, and even for myself, that's often the first time that they're hearing someone actually say that to them and confirm that to them. And also recognizing too that now you have, it's okay to become safe in your body. And I also, teach them how to, become safe in their body as well too, and recognize their body. But it's just those pieces like that you don't realize until you're actually like in the thick of it, so to speak, that, all those things actually, when they're put together, really do truly count.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And you've touched on so many things. Being safe, when it comes to being safe in your body, and feeling like your body's like betrayed you. But the truth is that your body is always doing everything it can to keep you safe and secure. So your body is going to do its job, right? And part of that job is really, I feel like the reason I was able to navigate Lyme disease for as long as I have is because of the nutrition and what I was putting into my body. So prior to getting sick, I was very active. I ate really healthy food. And I feel like that has been something that set me up to be more successful in living a relatively normal life. But a lot of this is like paying attention to how you feel. I know you said you were on 15 different medications. How can people start to and that's an interesting thing too, is because it seems like when people have things going on, they will, I don't know, I guess tapping into your body's intuition when it comes to nutrition and feeling what is it that your body, what is best for your unique body, because we're all different.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, even for myself too, like, prior to my accident, I did work out like 6 days a week. I was pretty, healthy, considered quote unquote healthy eater, as well too, as far as my nutrition side. But what I did recognize is that when I started to, kind of go down that trail, as far as in my journey, I wasn't eating as well. And the reason being is that I didn't have really it in me to even like stand up long enough to like cut up fruit and vegetables and things of that nature, that I did become, the takeout queen. And when you start doing, more of the takeout, that also ends up being more processed foods and things of that nature, that then also can create inflammation in your body. And so being able to go ahead and recognize that, number one, my body was severely inflamed on top of the fact that I also had, from what I was putting in my body, but then also too, from the accident and everything itself. And so I had to go ahead and take a look. And so I started to do my own research once again and decided I wanted to go on to an anti-inflammatory diet to at least see if that can go ahead and bring down some of that inflammation in my body. Because one thing is, when it comes to pain, inflammation is one of the top things that actually creates the pain in your body. And in essence, it's really, and I kind of say it this way, but it sounds gross, but it's the truth. Inflammation basically is just like additional pus in your body. And it's, basically pushing down on your muscles and everything. And that's what's actually creating the pain. So that's just like the easiest way to explain it. So to be able to go ahead and try to eliminate that, definitely trying to get the inflammation out of your body. And so that's why I decided to do that. And with that, it also had me going gluten-free, dairy-free as well. And by me doing that, and then also, reincorporated movement back into my life as well, because I was, at a point of barely moving because I was in so much pain. And I started off just basically, walking, even if it was just for a couple minutes, walking up and down my stairs in my house, kind of walking around the couch or something, just for 5 minutes, just to kind of get myself started and then be able to go ahead and move forward from there. I was able to, and then also, doing some mental health with my therapist, doing journaling, also stress management, because one thing is that stress can also lead into inflammation as well, because that's another cause. And then, putting all those pieces together, I was able to get off of all the medications and also drop 50 pounds in about 4 months, which I know that's not a typical, situation, that it can often, take longer than that. But I was just at that point where I'm like, I had nothing else to try. So I'm like, let me go ahead and try something, because everything else that's happening right now is not working. And so I need to take over the science experiment and figure out what's going to go ahead and work for my body.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I have found that when I have myself gone on an anti-inflammatory diet, so Lyme disease feeds on sugar.
Yes.
So I realized that when I eat sugar, I feel worse when I eat like nutrient dense food, like fresh food, not processed. Like I feel amazing.
Yes.
But with anti-inflammatory diet, I found that it actually will support people in releasing like 10 pounds worth of weight just from the inflammation in your body leaving, right?
Yes.
So it releases that weight along with it. So I love that you said that when it comes to nutrition and finding what works for you. So dairy-free might work for you, gluten-free might work for you. I've been vegetarian for over 20 years. I don't know if that played a part, but I'm just more like plant-based nutrition. And for other people, it might be that they're paleo or that they're keto, because that's
pescatarian.
Yeah, because that's what works for their unique body. So it's not like I couldn't tell Serita what's best for her body, and she couldn't tell me, because our bodies are unique and different.
Right.
So I love that as a coach, you support people with like tapping into their own intuition and finding out what nutrition plan works best for them, instead of
Absolutely.
with knowing their own bodies. So it's like people who coach who hire you as a coach, it's like they're doing their own experiment and you're walking them through the process, right?
Absolutely. And then I also, I have them even do like a journal and everything as well too. Like we do food journals and we go ahead and really try different combinations. And I have them actually, write down the way you felt before you ate, the way you felt after, and then also looking at the next day as well. So in that way, they're able to really truly see like, okay, I noticed that because I did this, now I'm recognizing that. And even just, having more hydration, like, we were talking about that before we got on here, talking about how much water and things that you're drinking as well too. Because another piece is that, 75% of people are chronically dehydrated. And that's also something that also affects pain as well too, because your body basically is pulling, from out of your muscles, pulling water, in essence, when you're dehydrated, which that also, once again, can cause pain as well because your muscles start to spasm. And so those are different things that, if you don't recognize that, that's a big piece in itself. And also making sure too that it's not, as far as for like watching for like soda and caffeine and different things like that, where I'll say, I do have, my tea every morning. My tea does have some caffeine in it, but then I also follow behind with water. So it's like kind of knowing what would work for your body, as well too, where some people just cannot tolerate caffeine. And it's just not something that works for them, that regardless of if they do drink a lot of water behind it or not, it's still not going to make a difference. They're still going to have the same results. So it's just one of those things, once again, really just tapping in and recognizing what your body is saying to you and what it's telling you.
I love that. I also wanted to touch on too, being the takeout queen. So I know with going through chronic pain, I live with someone that goes through chronic pain. A lot of the times, the sugar cravings and the processed food cravings come from your body wanting comfort. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's potato chips. Like I was raised on beer and potato chips, like with my dad. Mm-hmm. Like potato chips are like my comfort. So when you're going through that much pain, like realizing that your body's reaching for but when you're talking about the food journals and how they're making your body feel, also the emotions that are coming out, right?
Absolutely.
Because I know that you look at your clients holistically, like not just how the food makes you feel inside your body, but what were you feeling when you reach for that bag of chips? Because it is a way to self-medicate your pain. So it's your body, like your body loves you and your body's like, oh my gosh, you're stressed out right now. I'm going to find some comfort food for you. Let's go grab that bag of chips and sit down and eat it. So I can imagine what it's like for your clients when it like clicks of like, okay, I'm feeling like shit right now. So I'm going to go grab a bag of chips and I'm going to eat the bag of chips. Right. And then you feel good.
I'm not going to feel better. It's like I'm actually
like while you're chewing and then you swallow it and your body's like, I hate you. What did you do? Right?
But also too, it's like, it is the possibility of, actually missing nutrients as well too. So it's also, sitting there saying to yourself, okay, because you have this going on, in actuality, this is what your body actually is craving. It might be craving magnesium. It might be, all those different types of things. And so being able to recognize that, but then also too, I do swaps, as well. Like I'll say, hey, there's like cauliflower chips, there is quinoa chips, different things. That way, then if you still want to have that, because I don't tell any of my clients that they have to stop, eating certain things. I just say, hey, here's what this is doing, to your body when you're eating it. You go ahead and think about what you want to go ahead and do with that information. Because sometimes, people just don't know, because the thing is that you're not actually really taught how to eat in school. That's one of those things where it's like, you're just basically given, if you're taking lunch from school, for example, you get, whatever they're giving you and not realizing that, unfortunately, a lot of times they're giving you crap, and that's those things that you have to, kind of recognize as well, too. So it's really just that unlearning and relearning what actually works for you. And then once you discover what works for you, it's like you have that aha moment, like the light bulb goes off. You're like, oh my goodness, if I just would have only drunk like another bottle of water, you're telling me I wouldn't be having like a spasm right now or something? Like, yeah, like we're just kind of like, looking at those different things. And once they see that, it's really, they're now feeling empowered because they're like, wow, I know what works for my body. I know what my body's telling me. And now I can recognize that. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. And that's the part that, is amazing, because I can even know for myself where sometimes I might be, like you said, you might be craving some sugar. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut up some strawberries. I'm going to have some blueberries. I'm going to go ahead and have something else. And then I'll eat that and I'll be like, oh, okay, I might have needed some potassium. Let me go ahead and eat, I might eat a banana or something. It's just like all those different things that your body is craving and saying to you. And like I give my clients a list too, where I say, okay, if you want something salty, all right, let's take a look at this list. What is your body actually craving? And then they're able to go ahead and say, okay, well, let me go ahead and try this other, particular food and see if that goes ahead and gets rid of the craving. Because it's one of those things that, it's there. We don't want to deny that you're craving something, but it's like, let's go ahead and swap it to something that's going to be more, nutrient dense for your body.
I love this. I also do swaps with my clients, and I do like three a week, or like very, very slowly, with pulling people off of stuff. So I absolutely love the suggestions that you have, like the cauliflower chips, the quinoa chips. Love these suggestions. These are things that our viewers can take on like immediately now and just try to see how it makes you feel. Document it. Document the water and how it makes you feel. I know Lori says this. I think Lori is also a Lyme disease warrior like me. But she is saying that she doesn't want to cook because of the pain that she's in. And I have experienced with my own struggles of not wanting to cook in the kitchen. I'm going to ask Serita what her suggestion is for this. Mine is, I have a friend who owns a company called Fit Freak Meals, and she does all of the cooking, and it's all healthy. You can tell her what macros you're eating. You can tell her if it's gluten-free, whatever it is, and they will prepare it for you. They will bring it to your house and drop it off. I know that Lori's in Canada. I don't know if that's available to you, but that's a suggestion that I've used in my world. I think I released 7 pounds of weight after having surgery, and I couldn't lift anything just from having meals prepared for me. Yes. And I did the anti-inflammatory diet because and I hate saying diet, I did the anti-inflammatory nutrition plan.
Yes.
From surgery. So Serita, that is something I would suggest for a client. What would you suggest?
Actually, something similar to just kind of looking to see what options are available near them. Like I have a few people here as well that also do like meal planning, that have like their own, companies that actually do so. Also with juicing as well too, so I know people that actually do those different things. But then also too, with me being in Wisconsin, it's cold right now. I mean, I'm looking at snow outside my window. Okay. So a lot of times, like, that's another piece, it's kind of like the mental thing of, okay, I don't even want to go outside to get stuff or anything either. But I'm a big person. I'm about my crock pot. So I will go ahead and put stuff in my crock pot and let it just cook on its own. So in that way, I don't have to worry about, messing with it or anything. And then I can go ahead and just, come back to it a few hours later. So it's like just being able to go ahead and put those, put whatever it is that you're making, in there and let it cook on its own. And then that way too, just because you're using your crock pot, it doesn't mean it has to be something that's, not the healthiest or anything either. I mean, you could be making yourself some, some chili. Like I sometimes go ahead, I still, I eat organic chicken, even though I do more plant-based than anything. I still haven't gotten rid of my chicken yet. So that's like, so it's still like those, those certain things that I'll go ahead and throw it in there. Like I might do like a nacho thing or something, where I'll, put meat in and then put the taco seasoning and everything in there and throw the salsa in, just like it's literally like takes you less than 5 minutes to throw it in there and then just go ahead and go about it. And then not only is it, you're good for the day, you're good for a few days, depending upon how much you put in there. So that way it gives you that time to recover, especially if you're in the middle of a flare. That's the last thing you want to think about is trying to eat something. So it's like if you can get some good juices in, or like some smoothies, for example, as well too, where that one I know can be a little bit difficult because sometimes you're a little sensitive to noise. So that's where it can be a little, a little bit of a struggle. But even if you're able to find, for example, even like protein substitutes. So for me, like I use Orgain protein because it's vegan. And so that way, with me being dairy free and gluten free, it's all, basically in there, where then I can go ahead and mix it with some coconut water. And then I have, something I can go ahead and, have. And that way, I try not to have it be necessarily like a meal replacement, but at least to have it as a snack or something. So that way I don't feel like I'm not, as deprived, when it comes to my nutrition as well too. So it's like, I really, sit there and kind of say, okay, with my clients, I'll say, okay, what are your things that you like to eat? because I don't want to give you like a meal. I don't do meal plans per se, but I'll go ahead and say, hey, let's go ahead and just take a look at what you're eating. Let's see what we can go ahead and do and, walk you through it and then figure out what works out the best for you. And then saying, hey, let's use a crock pot, or hey, let's go ahead and roast some potato, whatever it is that we're going to be going ahead and doing, that way it can still help you out. Because I remember those days, trying to cut up, different things is not fun when you can't feel your hand, or, whatever the case may be, with what's going on. So I get it.
Yeah, I love the suggestions that you gave us. Those are really powerful. Also enrolling people to help. I'm one of those people, like Serita, when she was going through her stuff, I was like, I had 2 small children and I was dating someone, but it was like enrolling someone else to do the cooking, enrolling someone else. And also with my clients, like if they're going to go out to eat, no problem. I have designed like a sheet of like, okay, you want to go to Chick-fil-A. So you're going to go have the meat, like the chicken bites. They're like the
grilled chicken.
Yeah. So you can definitely go out to eat. You can definitely go get fast food. There's options that you can choose. They probably won't be as good as like making it at home.
Yep.
But you can find healthy things to eat. And yeah, I give my clients like a list. Like this is what you could go to this place and eat. What are the fast food restaurants around your job?
Right.
Well, let's find some that will work for what it is that you're creating for yourself. So those are some of the suggestions that I have for Lori. If you're going to do like DoorDash, you're free to reach out to me. I don't know how Serita feels if I'm like, reach out to Serita, but
that is definitely fine as well too, because I do the same thing as well, where it's like, I kind of give the cheat sheet, so to speak, as far as for things like that, which I know I incorporate in my programs as well too. But if there's something in particular that you're like, hey, I'm not quite sure, or even when it comes to like certain foods, because sometimes I've noticed that some people think that they like can't eat in certain things anymore, and it's like, well, you can, but it's just more or less going ahead and swapping things out with it. So for example, like I mentioned, different things, like I still eat macaroni and cheese, but just that it's not actual, I'll do the vegan version of it though, where it's like, it's, might be some almond milk in there, might be coconut milk, just being able to go ahead and do those alternatives, or oat milk, for example, because a lot of times, people don't recognize that there are alternatives that you can use for dairy that, work out just fine. And it's just a matter of, though, the consistency might be a little bit different, but that's, that's something that you kind of work through and be able to go ahead and kind of doctor things up how you want it to be, so to speak, for the foods that you like. And even finding someone that, is might be a chef, or even finding, different variations, as far as you're doing like Google searches. But I have like a lot of friends of mine that are, vegan chefs, for example. So they'll say to me, hey, we can do this or that. Like for me this year, I have never had chili before. And the reason why is because I'm allergic to beans. And so I've never been able to go ahead and do it. So one of my friends is a vegan chef, and he said, well, I'll make it for you with garbanzo beans. And I'm like, I love garbanzo beans because those are only ones I really can eat. So I'm like, yes, I'm like, that's fine. And he made it for me. And that was the first time I was able to actually have chili, was like literally like the end of last year. It was the first time I was able to try it, just because I didn't know what other alternatives I could do. And I didn't even think of that, as far as you're being able to do it. And it just happened to be someone just, says one thing to you, and it's like, oh, now I can go ahead and do it this way. And he even says to me, he's like, if whenever you need it, just let me know. And he's like, I'll make it for you. He's like, don't worry about it. And so it's just being able to know those type of things that you're able to go ahead and do as an alternative is huge.
Yeah, I love that. I love that enrolling people and like sharing, and then having them support you with their ideas. And I really love the idea of the adventure of it, like trying new things and getting out of your comfort zone with, trying chili for the first time.
Yes.
I love experimenting with different foods and trying new foods. So loving this. I know we've got about 10 minutes left. I know you touched a little bit on stress management for people who are navigating the first steps in their chronic pain journey. What are your favorite suggestions or your clients' favorite go-tos for stress management?
I have like a top 3. So my top 3 is breath work, meditation, and journaling. And from those, as far as the breath work, for example, being able to get back in tune with your body. Because sometimes, especially like how you're mentioning before earlier, having the, going to different appointments, getting like a ton of information kind of like thrown at you, your head starts to go into like a tailspin, and you literally feel like you're in tunnel vision. You don't know, you can't make heads or tails of anything. And it's like, okay, well, what's one thing that you always have that is free? Your breath. Okay. Like you always have that's like the one thing you always have. So it's like being able to go ahead and just stop and like, okay, I'm gonna, for example, do like a 5-5-7 breath, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and breathe for 5, I'm gonna hold it for 5, and then I'm gonna, breathe out for 7. And being able to go ahead and do something like that for 10 cycles, that's something that can go ahead and just, alleviate some stress for you right there, just, within a matter of a couple minutes. So that's, one piece right there. Then if you have more than a couple minutes, I definitely say meditation is a huge one as well, especially body scan meditations, for example, because I know sometimes there's cases where you feel like your whole body's in pain and you don't know exactly where it's coming from or anything. So there'll be times where like, I remember going to doctor's appointments and they're like, okay, well, where's your body hurt? I'm like, well, everywhere. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what to, what to tell you. But then from me being able to go ahead and actually sit and doing a body scan meditation where you're actually focusing on each part of your body, you can actually then recognize, okay, my pain is in my upper back or it's in my left hip, whatever the case may be. And being able to go ahead and kind of like do a mini documentation. And then once you're able to go ahead and do like a mini documentation, then you're like, okay, well, what is this, what is this trying to tell me? And then that kind of pulls into the journaling part of it, where, being able to go ahead and just get some stuff out of your head. Because I know sometimes, especially when you're going through so much, you don't, sometimes you don't have people that you can actually talk to about it because they're not going through it as well. And, your friends and family may mean well, but sometimes they can give you a lot of shitty advice, and sometimes they might not be supportive as well either, where they might say things like, well, just suck it up. My back hurts, every now and again too. And it's like, well, no, that's not the same, type of a pain. It's like, it's completely different. But to have your journal is judgment free, because your journal's not going to talk back to you. It's going to go ahead and just allow for you to, just write things out and get the things out of your head. And so those are just pieces, right there that I, have had my clients use. And they tell me about it, like, wow, I didn't really think that this was going to work. But they're like, I'm trusting you, I have faith in the process. I'm going to go ahead and trust it and do it. And with me, I do have a tendency of having like more male clients than, women clients. I don't know why, but it is what it is. And so with them, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, I don't want to journal. I think that that's, this or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm like, you all have one of these. So it's like, go ahead and you can use your phone and just do voice notes and just be able to go ahead and get it out that way. And then it's funny because then after they start doing that, then they start going into the actual journaling, because they're like, oh, well, and sometimes it's just that one step that they might need to kind of bring it over to them and to do the crossover. And then they'll start going ahead and doing that. But even so, it's, one of those things that it's okay, whatever works to get it out. Because the thing is that, you need to be able to go ahead and release that. And that's even just with writing, that's releasing an emotion. And that's releasing, just by you like putting the pen to paper. And even for me, journaling was actually twofold for me. It was actually a way that I was able to go ahead and release emotions, but then also too, because I might have mentioned, I lost the motor functions in my right hand when I had went through my surgery. So it was also me learning how to write again. So by me going ahead and doing that, that was helping me like to build the strength up in my hand and everything, and being able to go ahead and do that. So it's, it ended up being something that worked, in more ways than one, to be able to go ahead and help out. And that's something that, you can recognize, okay, hey, this is something that could, help me in a multifaceted way. Let me go ahead and, and try it. And there's, of course, I go through like different journal prompts for my clients and everything as well, too. And I have, different programs and things that I work with them on as well, just depending upon how they're going through their, their journey with their healing.
I love this so much. I also love that you support your clients with journaling, and it's a judgment-free space, but then you're also a judgment-free space. And having someone like you is an advocate, a health advocate to help people with navigating their pain. You're also part of the team that you're supporting them with creating, and then you're also supporting them with the nutrition side, just everything that people get from you, with what you bring. It's like you say that you walk right beside your clients in their journey, and I really feel that from you. Like, you have covered everything from emotions to, doctor's appointments, just the whole spectrum. So I know we're getting down to our last 5 minutes, and I just want to take a minute and just acknowledge you and recognize you for how far you've come in your journey, from not being able to use your hand to being able to use your hand. There's Alex saying there's power in the pen. Yes, there is. And we love you too, Ryan. Ryan, the lion in the house. Introduce Serita to Alex, powerful giant. But I just really want to acknowledge you for the hard work and that you have put in to heal yourself, and the contribution that you are being to all of us here. I am extremely grateful to have you as part of my tribe. I wish I would have known you way back when.
I know, right? It's like we
went through this, because I'm like, I could have had a Serita. So the fact that you're doing this, and honoring your mother with finishing your school, and just what a beautiful legacy that you are creating for yourself, for your children, and for your mom. The butterfly legacy lives on through you. So I'm extremely honored to have you here today. And I also wanted to leave, if our every week we do like a coaching session, our 3 action steps for the week. So first, if there's anything that you'd like to say to feel complete, and then 3 action steps that you would like to leave our viewers with this week.
Definitely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Nicole. And I know our paths crossed for a reason, whether it's, for us going to school and everything like that, and then just being able to move forward and just really able to witness you and your journey as well, too. It's definitely, it's powerful of a person that you are, and being able to go ahead and use, your testimony and share, and being that supportive person for everyone that's going through the different things as well, too. Because, we're basically sisters in the, I don't want to say struggle anymore, because we're not struggling anymore. We're now warriors. So we're sister warriors, so to speak, that we're able to go ahead and, we're pulling people up with us and sharing with them, how they can go ahead and do it for themselves. So, thank you for everything that you're doing as well, too. I know. That's why I'm doing good. I was not going to make me cry this time. I'm holding it together. So so I'm good. But that would be, the piece. And then also I just want to mention too, because I was kind of talking about some of the stress management parts, but I actually do have a program that I have out right now. I'm actually going to be starting up February 1st, which is called Transmute Your Pain, where it's a 5-week course. And I'm teaching my clients, definitely about the journaling. Also too, I'm teaching them about breath work, regular meditation, and body scan meditation. And then after that, the last week is a mind-body integration, because in essence, I'm having them being able to recognize where the pain is coming from in their body, but also tying the emotions that are behind that body part as well too, so they can then be able to go ahead and release that. And then that way they can go ahead, and that's just another piece that can help them, another layer when it comes to your pain management, because it is a lifestyle. It's not one thing, it's not a one size fits all, but you got to go ahead and make those lifestyle adjustments. That way you can be able to, feel better. So that's just the one thing that I wanted to mention. And as far as for my 3 pieces, I would say develop a morning routine, or a rising routine is what I like to call. I don't like to use the word morning, because I feel like that's just, morning should not be, it's basically like self-explanatory.
Ryan and I agree with this. Ryan, Ryan and I are not morning people. So rising, did you say, you call it a rising?
A rising routine. So develop a rising routine that works for you, that actually then focuses on, your mental, your spiritual, and your physical. So that actually just right there is, that could honestly be itself. So that would be, one thing is definitely developing a rising routine. Also too, another thing would just be doing a daily check-in, and just kind of checking in with yourself, and, saying, how do I feel today? How do I feel, and what do I need? because those are pieces that, if you don't know how you feel and you don't know what you need, how are you going to be able to go ahead and move forward? So just really doing that daily check-in. And then the last piece I would just say would be just staying hydrated, making sure that you're getting your water in. Because if you're not, a lot of the things, like I mentioned before, can be solved with just a drink of water. That's really, so that's just, getting that into your body. So
Love
those
it.
are my 3 pieces.
Okay, perfect. And then where can they find you? I put up your Instagram handle. I am chronically resilient. So if you guys are wanting to get into Serita's programs, how can they find you, Serita?
Yep, just as you said there. Also, too, you can definitely email me as well, which my email is goalchasers2020@gmail.com. Will be the other way. I will tell you guys right now, I have been on a social media detox just because I decided that it was time for me to do a little spiritual, spiritual maintenance. But that is okay because I am going to be coming back on tomorrow, and so then I'll be getting back to like all the messages and everything as well, because I felt that it's time for me to go ahead and just not have that distraction, but be able to go ahead and come back. I don't want to say come back strong, but come back whole. Because sometimes you just end up not you get kind of caught up in the world of things. It's like I want to be able to be more in tune with myself once again.
I love that. So powerful. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to go over you guys into a tribe of giants. I'm going to post up our episode thumbnail and put our action steps on there. So if you are needing support, guidance with that, Serita and I will be there monitoring the comments so that we can support you powerfully this week with what it is that you're creating in your health and wellness. And the action steps she gave us was for everyone, not just the chronic pain warrior. So I really love that. It's very inclusive. So, all right, with that, we will close out our episode, and the tools, support, accountability that you need to live your happiest, healthiest life lie beyond the purple door. Will you open it? Love you guys.